Nobody claps at home. Think about that for a second, right? If you close a deal, somebody claps. They applaud you. If you close a quarter, somebody claps. If you close out the end of the year well and you hit all of your projections, somebody claps, right? You hit all the numbers, you ship a launch, you land a new client, you get that promotion. Somebody somewhere claps, they applaud you. But when you walk through the front door, on the other hand, at the end of the day, nobody's clapping. Not usually, right? There's a pile of dishes in the sink, maybe. Or if you're like me, one of your kids is patiently waiting, or all of them, to ask you a question. They just need to know, is it a yes or a no, Dad? Can I do this or can I not? Right. And my spouse, right? We work from home, but maybe in your case, it's a spouse who's carrying the load of running the home all day long and they are running on fumes. And nobody, including you and I, if we're being honest, is throwing a parade. And here's the truth. That's exactly where the real work is. So stick with me because I'm going to give you and talk about what I'm calling winning out there and losing in here. I'm going to give you the principle and the practice and the movement for sure that you can take into the week to start closing the gap. But again, I want to help you go from winning out there and losing in here to winning everywhere. So let's jump into it. You guys, welcome to the Kingdom Family Movement podcast. I am your host, Sam Velasquez. And if you are tuning in for the first time, as always, welcome. I'm so glad you're here and that you found this podcast. And just as a reminder, foundationally, right? This is a place where our mission at the root is to restore God's original intent and design for the marriage, the family, and the home. And so do me a favor real quick. Okay. If this episode lands today, if you find something of value, hey, send it to a friend, follow, like, subscribe, leave a review. It's how we grow. And again, I appreciate it as always, you guys, for doing those things. And so I'm really excited. I want to just get into it. Right. And I want to set this up. I want to frame it right. So if I could say it this way, right? If there's one principle I want you to walk away with, and I want to be reminded of myself, it would be this. I would say it this way, okay? Because there's a lot I'm going to throw out there, and we're competing for everybody's attention right now. And so I don't think it's important that I have your completely undivided attention because hopefully I'm not the most important thing in your day, but I hope I'm something that can add value to where you're at in the day. And so here's the principle. A win at work that costs us a loss at home is not a win. I'll say it one more time. A win at work or a win in our work that costs us a loss at home is not a win. And listen, I don't say that to be some motivational slogan, right? That's a kingdom math problem because in the world that we live in, the world's math, right, is the scoreboard. Is revenue. It's titles, deals, posts, platforms, right? Applause. In kingdom math, the scoreboard is what you are stewarding, your spouse, your kids. It's the four walls that God gave us to lead inside of. And we cannot trade one for the other and then call it growth. We just can't. And I understand that there's a tension in this, right? Between work and home. I get it. Listen, I am not above any of this, right? I am human. I am a coach. I'm a builder. I run KFM, coaching practice, the podcast, the email. I've got my hands in a lot of things. I'm a husband, first and foremost, and a father, right? I've been married for 18 plus years. We have 4 kids between 8 and 16. So when I'm telling you about this tension, I'm not looking down at it. I'm with you. I am in it. And here's what it looks like in real life, right? It's the day has gone by. It's been a grind, right? Maybe you've been on calls or in meetings, coaching sessions. If you're like me, you've been in the email inbox, sending all those things, right? You've been making decisions. You've been solving problems. You've definitely performed. And let's be honest, when you perform out there or in your work, people notice, somebody notices. There's a reward loop, the dopamine, the validation. Hey, the great job, man. Hey, way to close that deal. Hey, thanks for crushing it. That's real. And it's loud. But then the work ends for the day. We come home or you come out of your office or the cave, right? If you're like me, again, I work from home, so does my wife. But most people are coming back from a job they're at, right? 5:30 hits, 6:30 hits, 7:30, whenever it is you get home. If we're being real honest, right? And you walk through the door, what's waiting? A spouse who's been holding it all down, right? Kids who don't care about your KPIs. KPIs, by the way, is just your key performance indicators, right? A dog who needs to just be let out. Is it a mountain of dishes? Maybe it's school projects that nobody told you about. And no, nobody claps. So what do most of us do, right? What do I do, right? Do we bring home, well, I think what most of us do is we bring home the version of ourselves that's already been spent. It's the leftovers, the reheated, the picked over. I gave the best of me to the people who don't even share my last name version. And then we hand that to people we say we love most, right? That's a hard truth. Think about it, right? If we are being honest, every single individual, hopefully on planet Earth, with the exception of the few, the slight small percentage of people, prefer a fresh, hot slice of pizza. It's just not the same. Once you have let it sit in a fridge overnight and you reheat it back up, and there you go. And I get it. For some people, they love that. And there's always those weirdos out there who love cold pizza. I'll eat cold pizza if I'm very lazy. But the truth is, most people want a fresh, warm slice of pizza. They don't want the leftovers. And the other hard truth is, I've done that. I think we've all done that in some sense, right? I was reminded earlier, right? A month ago, roughly, I was working on something I cared about a lot. It was KFM related, right? Kingdom Family Movement stuff, real mission work. It was God work, right? I was deep in it, of course. And so I'm often working on my laptop and it was open. I was in the living room. And side note, newsflash, by the way. Okay. If you work from home, the living room slash dining room, kitchen table, it's not a co working space, even though we've all tried to pretend it is. But, anyways, one of my kids walks up and they just want to show me something. It's not a crisis, it's not anything urgent, just something they're excited about. I remember not even looking up, but I just remember saying to them, I acknowledged they were there, but I didn't look at them. I just said, hey, give me 1 minute and I'll look at it. Okay, give me 1 minute. Well, 1 minute became 10 minutes, and then 10 became 20, and then 20 became later and way later. And basically what happened is it didn't happen. Like I didn't give it to, and then they were gone, right? They were gone. And then I even gave myself permission to not worry about it because, well, they must not care. No, they cared deeply because here's the truth. What I did wasn't a productivity issue. It was an alignment issue, right? I was winning in my work, but in the moment I was losing here in the home in the small kind of quiet way that nobody's going to call me out on. It's not like somebody's going to email me about that. Nobody posts about it, right? There's not a Slack notification that says, "Hey, Sam, you just made your kid feel like the laptop and your work matters more than they do," right? I'm not getting that notification, right? But that's the kind of loss that compounds in silence. It goes undetected and sometimes unseen. We're unaware. And I don't say that proudly. I say it because it happens. And in this case, it happened to me, right? Somebody who's literally talking about this for a living. It can happen to you. And it doesn't make you or I failures. It's not about failing, but it makes us human. That's the truth. It makes us human. And so it also means that we can do something about it, right? And that's the point, right? But there's a culture out there that sees it maybe differently, right? Here's the cultural piece I want you to kind of wrestle with or think about for a minute, right? We've been sold the idea, I'll say it modestly, but I would say we've been sold the lie that success is what you build out there. It's what you accomplish outside of the four walls, right? It's the platform, the portfolio, it's the numbers, the followers, the paycheck, the brand. And listen, I'm not condemning those things. I'm not saying that they're evil or bad. I'm not anti-ambition. I'm absolutely for being ambitious. I am all about going for your dreams, going after the things you believe God has called you to. I'm all about swinging for the fences, metaphorically speaking, right? But somewhere along the line, right? Along the way, the metric got hijacked, right? We started measuring our lives by what's measurable. Like if it can be measured, we're measuring it. And the home, by design, doesn't fit on a dashboard, by the way, right? We can't track presence on a spreadsheet. You can't quantify the look in your spouse's eyes when you actually listen, right? You can't put, again, like you can't put a KPI, a key performance indicator, on whether your daughter, your teenage daughter, believes she has your full attention. So what do? Well, we drift. And it's not because we're terrible people. It's not that. It's because the loud scoreboard is out there and the quiet one is in here. We see this truth in Mark chapter 8, right? Verse 36, Jesus says this. He says, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul?" And I've I've spoke about this before. And I think when we are familiar with the truth, like of God's word, especially this particular verse, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? I would argue that some people are okay with that. I would argue a lot of other people are very tempted to be okay with it because it seems like, what's it worth, right? If we're being honest, there's a lot of difficulty and challenge and nuance in trying to win inside the four walls, especially where there's no hand clapping, applause, and people giving you an attaboy and all the validation we think we need. That's a whole nother issue. But again, it's so important to remember this. And so if I were to ask the same question, right, through a kingdom family lens, right, what does it profit a man or a woman, right, to gain the deal, to gain the title, the platform, the launch, the round of applause, and then forfeit the marriage, the kids, the home, the legacy? Think about that for a minute. That's not me trying to lay guilt on anybody either, by the way. Let me just clarify that's me asking myself as much as you to do the math honestly. Because if the math doesn't add up, no amount of professional momentum is going to fix it, right? We will all hit the number and then still feel hollow if the home is collapsing while we're climbing. And let's be honest, that happens. I believe probably most of you listening to this have seen that in some capacity. So here's the hard line. And I'm going to say this with love and as much grace. I need God's grace in this, but I'm going to say it. You don't get a participation trophy at home for showing up physically while being absent everywhere else, right? Our spouses know the difference between us being present and us being in the room. Our kids know the difference between us, you, myself being available, and then you or I being on the phone just real quick, right? They feel it. They always have felt it. Let me say it another way. I apologize, but I'm going to say it another way too, because they don't need more of your presence in the building. They need more of you in the room, right? It's one thing to be present at my house, but not be present in the actual room within the home. Does that make sense? Right? They don't need more of our presence in the building. They just need more of you in the room. That's the work. That's why you could win out there all day long and still be losing in here. And I don't want that for anybody. So here's the one principle, as always, the practice in the movement that we can implement for the rest of the week, right? And beyond, because again, it's all rooted in principle. And let me give you kind of the spine of this episode so you can take it with you, okay? And the principle already stated, I'll state it again, right? A win at work that costs a loss at home is not a win. So identify that, period. A win at work that costs us a loss at home is not a win, period. And I'm not saying if that's happened, you should feel guilty or shameful or that you're a failure. I'm saying be aware of it, recognize it, and then remember we can do something about it. The kingdom doesn't reward output that's built on the back of the people you're called to steward, right? Your spouse is not a stakeholder waiting on your quarterly report. And the kids are not line items, okay? Don't treat them like they are. And listen, it's so easy to do that. It's not hard to get there, right? To drift into that and be unaware. Okay, I've done it in some capacity. So I'm not above this. Excuse me. So the practice though, right? How do we practice that? At the end of the day audit maybe, right? So before you kind of cross the threshold of your home, if you're coming from work back home or you're kind of shutting things down inside the home office and then going, into family life with not all the workload, right? Whether that's, again, literally walking through your front door or for those of you working again from home, before you close the laptop and you turn around, okay, or turn it all off, ask yourself this question. Put this into practice. Am I bringing my best self or my leftovers? That's it. One question. Okay. They don't need an app, or you don't need an app, and you don't need a journal. Okay. You need a simple framework. And so just ask the question and then let the answer change what you do next. Am I bringing the best version of myself home or am I bringing leftovers? Okay. If the answer is I'm bringing leftovers, let me tell you, I shouldn't say most days, but often, right? For most of us, that's going to be probably maybe an honest answer. And then take 5 minutes, pray, breathe, decompress in the car, decompress in the office for a minute and remind yourself, listen, I can't do this alone. I need help. Okay. Mentally re-enter your home with the version of yourself your family deserves, not the version that's left over after the world ate first per se, right? And I get it. We want to give them our best too. But again, I don't want to win in that way if I'm losing at home. Okay. So practice identifying where you're at. Am I bringing my best version or am I bringing leftovers? Okay. Get real about it. Be honest and then say, invite God in to help you. At the end of the day, there's no better way to tackle that. It may look a little different for you, but I'm like, God, I'm about to go into the real work now. And I thank you for the grace you've given me to do my work diligently and serve those you've called me to serve. But the most important work is ahead of me now. And so I need your grace. I need the Holy Spirit to be with me in this. So how do you move on this? How do you take action? This week, one time, day, night, whenever your work schedule is, just one, right? You don't have to overhaul your whole calendar and life. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to, become a stay-at-home martyr. That's not what I'm saying. But just one time this week, evening, day, whenever that is, take time off early if you can. Be home, cut out of the home office earlier, 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes. And then take those 30 minutes that you would have been working in your inbox, scrolling or whatever it is, and then give it to your spouse or to one of your kids. Okay, no multitask. No, do not multitask. Okay, not parallel playing. Not I'm here while I finish the email. I'm not saying take your work and go sit in the kitchen. Don't do that. No, take the honest 30 minutes. If you can cut out work early, if you can come out of the home office early and spend that 30 minutes with your spouse or kids. That's the movement. Okay. Put it into practice. Let me land this plane for us. The reason I'm so passionate about this and the reason this is kind of at the heart of KFM is because I genuinely believe that restoration, revival, it starts at home. I really do. I don't think it starts on a stage. I don't think that it starts in stadiums. I don't think that it starts on a podcast. I think it starts at a kitchen table, right? Where husband and wife actually look at each other again in the eyes. I think it starts in a hallway when a dad kneels down and he apologizes, or better yet, takes ownership in front of his kids. I think it starts on a couch, right? When someone decides we're going to close the laptop and we're going to choose presence over productivity for a minute. It doesn't mean we don't ever go back to work. Okay. But I'm just saying it starts at home. That's why I'm so passionate. And nobody's going to clap for you when you do it. So if you're waiting for an applause, Stop. The only audience, it should be the audience of one anyways, right? We should be doing things as unto the Lord. It's not so we can drive the algorithm. That's not what it's for. Okay. But I tell you what, 20 years from now, the people in your house are going to remember who you were when nobody was watching, not what you built out there. They may remember it, but it won't hold the same eternal value and weight. Your marriage is worth the work. Your family is worth the work. It is your most important work. And it never ends if we do this right, right? It becomes a compounding effect. Kids just turn into grandkids, right? Your home is worth the discipline. You are worth the discipline. So before I close this up, before I end for today, I want to sit with these for a minute and ask yourself, when was the last time people in your home got the best version of you instead of a leftover version? No shame, no condemnation, be honest. And what would change in your house this week if you were able to walk away from work 30 minutes early, healthily, of course? I'm not saying skip out on work without permission. I just mean if you could, just one time, what would that look like? How would that change? What kind of win could you produce in the home, not just at work? If this episode is speaking to you at all, if it's landing in any way, if you're relating, and I hope it did, I hope this is, because it's a healthy reminder to me every time I'm talking about this stuff. Do me a favor then, right? Send it to a friend, send it to a couple, send it to someone who's understands the value of like, man, we are crushing life, but we're struggling in the four walls. Send this to them because I want them to be encouraged and reminded. Okay. Send it to another husband, another wife, another couple. They need it. I need it. You need it. We all need it. And then lastly, as always, you guys follow, subscribe, leave a review. It's how we grow. It's how this message reaches more homes. And if you want this kind of reset every week, hey, then do the ultimate thing I think you could do is sign up for the free KFM 111 weekly reset. The link is in the show notes where you get the one principle, the one practice, and one movement every single week straight to your inbox for free. And it's not identical to the podcast. It's a little bit of a tweak, but listen, it's 2 to 3 minutes of reading to help get you set for the week and keep you on track throughout the rest of it. You guys, Sam Velasquez here with the Kingdom Family Movement podcast, and we will see you on the other side. Peace.